Elena Ruiz had tried everything: overtime shifts, budgeting apps, selling old keepsakes. But her financial struggles felt like an unbreakable curse. The weight of bills, the distance growing between her and her son, the suffocating feeling of failure. It all felt like shadows closing in. Until one evening, a simple suggestion from her friend Mara sparked a question that Elena couldn't shake. What if the chaos in my home was a reflection of something deeper? And what if a small, mysterious ritual could hold the key to breaking the cycle? Elena was desperate enough to try anything. But little did she know, this one choice would open a door she never knew existed. Elena Ruiz felt like she was sinking, suffocated by bills and debts that seemed to multiply overnight. She spent most days exhausted, juggling 2 jobs that barely covered rent and groceries. Why does everything always feel so heavy? Her house, too, mirrored her life, cluttered and chaotic, a constant reminder of how out of control things had become. Even her son Thomas seemed distant, his growing resentment only deepening Elena's guilt. Was it too late to turn things around? Each night, Elena lay awake, the darkness amplifying her fears. Am I failing as a mother? She wondered, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the soft tick of the clock. Her thoughts were relentless, spiraling into worst-case scenarios. Elena tried to reassure herself, but the weight of doubt was overpowering. It wasn't just financial pressure. It was the feeling of being trapped in a life she no longer recognized. Was this all there was for her? In her job as a grocery store cashier, Elena felt invisible, passing hours with mechanical politeness while her mind replayed her problems. Her boss, Mr. Donahue, only seemed to notice her mistakes. You missed scanning this item, he said coldly, handing back a receipt. Elena nodded, her throat tightening with humiliation. Am I really this incompetent? He wondered. At home it was no different. Piles of unpaid bills reminded her of every decision she regretted. When Thomas walked in one evening, his eyes full of resentment, he couldn't hide the bitterness in his voice. Why can't we ever get ahead, Mom? He demanded. Elena wanted to comfort him, but the words caught in her throat. She felt like she was failing him at every turn. I'm trying, she whispered, but even to her own ears, it sounded like an excuse. How could she make him believe in her when she barely believed in herself? Elena's friend Mara, ever the optimist, visited and noticed the tension. You're carrying a lot, Mara said, her eyes full of understanding. Elena wanted to deny it, but she couldn't find the strength. Mara offered a smile. Sometimes the heaviest things are the ones we can't see, she said gently. Mara's words lingered, tugging at something deep within Elena. But could clearing her home and aligning her energy really help? Or was this just another false hope? Elena sighed heavily, sinking into her old couch after Mara left. The house felt colder and darker than ever. Could something as simple as clearing my space really change anything? He wondered. Elena had tried everything. Budgeting apps, part-time gigs, even considering selling her old wedding ring. Nothing worked. But Mara's words stayed with her, whispering that there might be something she hadn't tried. Something more profound than just balancing numbers. The following day, as Elena folded clothes, Mara reappeared at her door, a warm smile on her face. Can we talk? Mara asked, and Elena nodded, unsure of what else to say. Over a cup of herbal tea, Mara shared stories of energy rituals and the connection between space and spirit. When you clear your environment, you clear your mind, Mara explained. Elena listened, trying to stay open. But how could cleaning fix years of financial struggle? Think of it this way, Mara continued, leaning forward. If your home is full of stagnant energy, how can new opportunities flow in? Elena mulled over the idea. She was skeptical, but something in Mara's words resonated. Mara mentioned bay leaves, cinnamon, lemon, and salt. All elements she believed could clear energy blockages and invite abundance. But it's not just about the ingredients, Mara said softly. It's about intention. You have to let go of what holds you back to make room for what you want. Elena was quiet, wrestling with a mix of hope and doubt. Could this really work, or was she being naive to even consider it? But the desperation in her heart made her ask, so, how do I start? Mara's eyes softened with understanding. First, you decide to believe in something different, she replied. That night, alone in her room, Elena felt torn. Should she go through with Mara's ritual? She didn't want to admit how much hope she was placing in something so simple, so seemingly meaningless. What if this is just another empty promise? She thought. But as she gazed at the piles of clutter and unpaid bills, she felt an almost physical weight pressing on her chest. I have to try something, she resolved, though doubt still gnawed at her resolve. Elena finally gathered the ingredients Mara had mentioned. Bay leaves from the spice rack, lemons from her kitchen, cinnamon sticks and coarse salt. She held them in her hands, feeling foolish yet strangely determined. Could these small things hold the key to a new beginning? Mara's words echoed. When you clear your environment, you clear your mind. Elena wasn't sure if she believed in magic or energy, but she believed in Mara, and maybe for now that was enough. Late that night, Elena began the ritual, her hands trembling with a mixture of determination and fear. She dipped a cloth into the fragrant lemon and bay leaf water, feeling the coolness against her skin. Could this really clear the darkness that had settled over her home? She wiped the front door slowly, each stroke heavy with intention. The weight of scarcity seemed to linger just beyond her vision, whispering doubts. Why should I believe this will change anything? Elena thought, the whispers growing louder. As she moved through her small apartment, Elena tried to stay focused, but each room felt like a reminder of her failures. She felt foolish, lost, and vulnerable. Yet with every sweep of the cloth, she visualized old energy being washed away. I'm letting go of the past, she whispered, almost as a prayer. Elena cleaned each window and doorway, picturing new possibilities entering her life. But a voice in her head mocked her efforts. What makes you think this is enough? Elena paused in the kitchen, staring at the piles of unpaid bills on the counter. The weight of scarcity felt almost physical now, pressing down on her shoulders. She took a deep breath and poured the last of the cleaning mixture into a small basin. As she dipped her hands in, she closed her eyes and whispered, I am ready to receive. It felt strange, speaking words of abundance in a life so defined by lack. But as she spoke, something shifted within her. Thomas watched from the doorway, confusion etched on his face. Mom, what are you doing? He asked, his voice hesitant. Elena looked up, meeting his gaze with newfound clarity. I'm trying to let go of what's holding us back, she said, her voice steady despite the doubt gnawing at her. Thomas didn't respond, but there was a flicker of hope in his eyes. Elena realized that this ritual wasn't just for her. It was for them both. It was a chance to rebuild. After finishing, Elena stood in the silence, feeling both foolish and brave. What if this was the beginning of something new? She wondered, the room around her seeming lighter, the air clearer. She felt a sense of calm that she hadn't experienced in years, as if the act of cleaning had released something heavy. Mara's words echoed in her mind. When you clear your environment, you clear your mind. For the first time, Elena allowed herself to believe that this might be true. The morning after the ritual, Elena woke up feeling an unfamiliar lightness in the air. It wasn't a dramatic change, but there was a subtle shift, like the dawn after a long night. She hesitated to trust this new feeling. Could one night of intention really change years of struggle? She made coffee and glanced around her apartment, noticing how the sunlight seemed brighter, the space clearer. It wasn't magic, but it was enough to make her believe in possibilities. As she prepared breakfast, an unexpected email caught her eye, an old client wanting to rehire her for bookkeeping work. Elena stared at the screen, her heart pounding. Could this be real? She reread the message, half expecting it to vanish. But it was real, and it came with the promise of steady pay. Elena felt a swell of gratitude and confusion. Is this a coincidence? He wondered. But something inside whispered that maybe, just maybe, things were beginning to align. Elena shared the news with Mara, who smiled knowingly. This is just the beginning, Mara said. When we clear old energy, we make room for new opportunities. Elena felt a flicker of hope amidst her doubt. Was it possible that the ritual had truly opened a path? But as the day went on, the whispers of doubt crept back. What if this is just luck? What if it all falls apart again? Elena wrestled with her conflicting thoughts, uncertain of what to believe. That evening, Thomas approached Elena hesitantly. You seem different, he said, his voice quiet. Elena turned, surprised by his words. I'm trying to be, she replied, feeling a tightness in her chest ease. Thomas nodded, his expression softening. They shared a brief but meaningful silence, and for the first time in months, Elena felt a fragile connection rebuilding between them. Maybe this is the real shift, she thought. Maybe the ritual wasn't just about clearing her space, it was about clearing her heart. The weight of scarcity wasn't gone, but its grip felt weaker, its voice quieter. Elena knew that one ritual wouldn't erase all her struggles, but it had given her a glimpse of hope she hadn't felt in years. She looked at her son and smiled, grateful for even the smallest signs of change. Is this how it begins? He wondered. Not with a grand revelation, but with quiet moments of clarity and courage. Elena took a deep breath, ready to embrace whatever came next. Over the next few days, small but significant opportunities began to surface. Elena received a call about another freelance bookkeeping job, and her creditors offered an unexpected grace period. Each new development felt like a step forward, yet Elena couldn't help but question if it was all just a coincidence. Can cleaning and intention really influence my life this way? She asked herself, unsure of what to believe. But the steady trickle of good news was hard to dismiss. Elena shared her excitement with Mara, who beamed with pride. "You're shifting your energy," Mara said warmly. "The universe is responding." Elena wasn't sure she believed in the universe's plans, but she couldn't deny that things felt different. The weight of scarcity still lingered in the corners of her mind, but its presence wasn't as oppressive. Elena felt more in control, as if she was beginning to regain the power she had unknowingly given away. At work, Elena's boss, Mr. Donahue, seemed to notice the change in her demeanor. "You've been more focused lately," he remarked, almost reluctantly. Elena nodded, surprised by the compliment. It was a small acknowledgement, but it meant more to her than she could express. "Is this what happens when you align your energy?" she wondered, feeling a surge of confidence. For the first time in a long while, Elena felt capable of shaping her own life. Thomas, too, began to respond to the shift in energy. He spent more time in the living room instead of retreating to his room, and their conversations were less strained. One night, as they watched an old movie together, he glanced at his mother and said, "I like it when you're like this." Elena felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. Maybe this is what abundance truly feels like, she thought, not just in money but in moments of connection and peace. Elena realized that the ritual had done more than clear her home. It had cleared a path for her to rediscover herself. She began to actively seek new opportunities, feeling empowered to take risks instead of waiting for luck to find her. The weight of scarcity wasn't defeated, but it was no longer the loudest voice in her mind. Elena knew she still had a long journey ahead, but for the first time she believed that it was one she could win. Elena's transformation wasn't immediate, but it was steady and undeniable. Each day she performed small acts of renewal, opening windows to let in fresh air, discarding old clutter and speaking affirmations as she cleaned. "I am ready to receive," she whispered each morning, allowing herself to believe it a little more each time. The ritual had become a practice, not just a one-time act. Is this what it means to truly align with abundance? He wondered, feeling more grounded. At work, Elena's confidence grew. She began offering new ideas to Mr. Donahue, who responded with cautious approval. "Keep this up and we might have to discuss a raise," he remarked, half joking. Elena smiled, feeling a warmth she hadn't felt in years, a sense of being seen and valued. Maybe aligning my energy isn't about waiting for change, she thought, but about actively creating it. It was a simple shift in perspective, but it changed everything. Thomas noticed his mother's renewed spirit and began to open up more. One evening he shared his worries about school and his future. "I just don't want to end up stuck," he confessed. Elena listened, her heart aching with the weight of her own regrets. "You won't be stuck," she assured him, her voice steady. "And neither will I." For the first time, Thomas believed her words. Elena realized that this journey wasn't just about prosperity. It was about healing old wounds. The weight of scarcity still lingered, but it no longer felt insurmountable. Elena began to see it not as an enemy, but as a reflection of her past fears and doubts. "You're not as strong as you used to be," she whispered to the invisible presence, feeling its grip loosen. She knew there would be hard days ahead, but she also knew she had the tools to face them. Maybe overcoming fear isn't about defeating it, she thought, but about learning to live beyond it. Elena continued to perform the ritual, not as a desperate act, but as a reminder of her own power. She understood now that the ingredients weren't magical. They were symbolic of the changes she was creating within herself. Each day was a chance to reinforce her intentions and realign her energy. Elena felt ready to embrace whatever challenges and opportunities came her way, knowing that true abundance wasn't just about money, it was about living with purpose and clarity. As weeks passed, Elena's financial situation began to stabilize. She wasn't suddenly wealthy, but the steady stream of freelance work and careful budgeting gave her a sense of control she hadn't felt in years. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the freedom to choose her path. Is this what it feels like to be in alignment with abundance? She wondered, feeling a growing sense of gratitude for every small victory and every lesson learned. One evening, as the full moon rose, Elena decided to perform the ritual again. Not because she needed a miracle, but because it had become a practice of intention and gratitude. She lit cinnamon incense and whispered her affirmations, feeling a deep sense of peace wash over her. "I am open to receiving all that the universe has to offer," she said quietly, trusting that her words held power. Is this what faith feels like? She thought, her heart full. Mara visited the next day, noticing the calm energy in Elena's home. "You've changed," she remarked, her eyes warm with approval. Elena smiled, feeling the truth of Mara's words. She had changed, not just her circumstances but her mindset. "Thank you for believing in me," Elena said, her voice thick with emotion. Mara squeezed her hand and replied, "The belief was always within you, Elena. You just needed to find it." Elena nodded, understanding that now more than ever. Thomas too had felt the shift in their lives. "You seem happier," he said one afternoon, his voice tentative but hopeful. Elena hugged him, grateful for the bond they were rebuilding. "I am," she replied, her voice steady. Elena realized that prosperity wasn't just about money. It was about the moments of connection, peace, and trust she was creating with each day. The weight of scarcity had lost its power, replaced by a sense of inner strength and clarity. Elena stood by her window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. She thought of the journey she had taken, from the depths of despair to a place of light and hope. It wasn't magic that had saved her. It was intention, courage, and the willingness to believe in something greater than her fears. "This is just the beginning," she thought, smiling as the first stars appeared in the twilight. Elena was ready for whatever came next. Elena discovered that sometimes the smallest changes can unlock the greatest transformations. What about you? Is there an area of your life where you feel stuck or weighed down by negativity? Share in the comments the first step you're ready to take to clear that energy and invite new opportunities. And if this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more powerful journeys that help you reclaim your power. Your transformation begins now. What will be your first step?